Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining, thank you for joining this international conference. Since it's international, thank you also, since people are joining from different time zones. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you. My name is Martin van Poel. I am project coordinator for this consortium for this international project called TEDI, which prepared this webinar today. And I'm very excited that today we are able to bring together people from around Europe and around the world to discuss this important topic of climate education at school and the new skills that are needed for this green transition. Let's see. Yes. I assume that at this point, no one is new to Zoom anymore, but nonetheless, I think it's good for people who are joining to find the participant button and change their names. So change their name so that it has your full name, the organization, and also the country where you're from. That way we know who we're talking to. Also, we are recording this session. Just so you all know, we will be uploading this to our websites afterwards for people who weren't able to attend the live session. And final comment, for everyone who, we really want this session to be participative. So feel free throughout to use the chat to send your questions. We will be keeping an eye out and making sure that they get answered through possible and in the Q&A session when appropriate. I'd like to quickly introduce ourselves. So the TEDI project was a project organized by these four organizations: 2811, which is a social change platform based in Berlin, in Germany; Solutions for the Planet, which is a award-winning social enterprise operating in environmental entrepreneurship, education, and green innovation in the UK; AESS, an energy agency based in Modena, Italy, providing consultancy and professional training in the fields of sustainability and Stichting Technotrend, a non-profit in the sustainability education sector. Well, what brought us together? That's the question I want to answer now, namely the TED. As you can read above, the full title for what TEDI stands. Throughout this presentation, we'll be referring to TEDI to keep it short. The context of this consortium: 2 years ago, when we started with this project, the world was in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and the education sector was forced to switch and innovate very rapidly to this remote education world. In this context, the EU announced their ambitions to invest in a smart and green recovery, where it was going to be possible to reach the goal of being carbon neutral by 2050 through innovating in smart, which is investing in digital innovation and education, and green, which is investing in the energy transition and green mobility and all the other examples that we know. To realize a boosting of the economy and a more equitable society. To contribute to that, we wanted to work together to give teachers the right tools and resources and empower them to educate the next generation of sustainability champions. Because we found and believe that through digital tools, green education can be improved. So throughout the past 2 years, we worked together to develop, implement, and evaluate digital teaching materials that improved our sustainability education programs. But that's who we are. We are since this is a participative session, we're curious to know who's with us today. To right away show a digital tool that we found very useful through our project, Mentimeter. Some of you may be aware, some may not. We have a link I think it will be posted in the chat now. If I
Posted. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Where you can share. Yeah, where are you from? What kind of organization do you represent? That way we have an idea of what kind of audience we're talking to today. See the first answers already coming up. We have people visiting from Italy or joining us from Italy. 2811 is represented, is a global organization, and the people joining us from 2811 are both from Chile and Berlin. I see there's at least 20 participants, so I'm going to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, maybe also mention for the new people joining us that we are doing a check-in. So you can find the Mentimeter link also on the chat, and you can answer us from which organization are you representing today and where are you based. You can find the link on the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, let's, I don't think we need to spend more time on waiting for answers. I'll go back to the presentation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so today we're with an international audience, people from schools, from NGOs, and from private sector, all working together on different aspects of the sustainability education challenge, which is very exciting that we can bring people from different disciplines in today. Yeah, and as you can see on the agenda, today we will start with the first half with some inspiration sessions hosted by our expertise Waldo Soto and Davide Ferraresi. And afterwards, we will, after being inspired and having some time for question and answers, we will use the sort of interdisciplinary nature of our session today to go into breakout rooms to bring these different expertise that we have to good use, and not just send out information, but co-create information or like content as well. And then finally, after the breakout rooms, we will share and bring it all back together in a plenary session. Our first speaker today is Waldo Soto from 2811. He will be talking about green and digital skills, a topic he's familiar with, thanks to his background as a co-founder of the international organization 2811. I'm very grateful today that Waldo can share his insight from a global perspective on climate education, on climate action and education. And I guess before I build it up too much, I'd like to give over the word to Waldo. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Can I share my screen? That will be that possible? Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone, also. So if I'm okay, Martin, with 15 minutes will be.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay, I can speed up also if needed. Cool. So I'm a bit with a cold today, so I hope you can understand me. If not, just let me know. Maybe in the chat we can clarify anything if needed. So yeah, Waldo Soto together here with Remy, Malu, and I think more people. We are participating from 2011. 2011 is an international social change platform working on education mainly for a more regenerative future. So in this 15 minutes, I will less already. I would like to share with you a question we made ourselves as a platform, and a question where we feel we need new inputs, we need your help on deepening it and also understanding what are kind of the next set of skills we need today for successfully heal the planet, heal the ecosystems, and heal the many things we already broke and the former generations already broke. So we made this question thinking on planetary regeneration. We believe that, just as short note why regeneration and not sustainability, maybe, we strongly believe that sustainability is not sufficient today. It's not anymore a possibility because we don't want to sustain maybe many of the systems we have today. Today the task is more around regenerate and heal, repair, restore some of the ecosystem capacities and features. That's because the emphasis mainly around planetary regeneration. So the question is, what is needed in the educational sector? What is needed as new skills we should incorporate on our work if we aim for this planetary regeneration? So on planetary boundaries first, so why we think that the planet is already broken in many of the systems or the ecosystems, or at least the planet as we know it as human beings. This is just an example of many approaches we can take to say the same, that we are far from a safe space or safe degree of operation in many planetary boundaries. Those are ecological boundaries. I just want to highlight here a couple one. So regarding around fresh water, for instance, and this is new, this wasn't the case the last year, at least, we already trespassed many of the boundaries on the change of fresh water and also green water on many ecosystems. We are far from a safe space around novel entities in the ecosystems, meaning plastic and many other things. And regarding the biosphere integrity, we also are far from a safe space of operation. No? If we are pushing the boundaries on many of these indicators, this is like the safe temperature of the planet, no? We are just heading towards destroying our own ecosystems and our own way of living and making society. And it's something that many scientists are also today pointing out, that many of the planetary boundaries, climate change, the biosphere conditions, biodiversity, water, and many others, are very linked, of course, to the social boundaries. No, just gonna go a bit quickly here. And this chart, this is called the donut economy, is one approach of many. No, it's showing actually how this is interconnected. So the planetary boundaries, in a way, are giving us, in a way, the environmental ceiling where humanity can be in this kind of safe and just space. And then this is interlinked with the social foundations around healthcare, social equality, social equity, jobs, education, resilience, income, and many others. No, so the safe space for humanity is given by the some ecological and planetary borders, indicators, and also some social foundation. No, and this is of course interlinked. No, we have today the increasing challenge around climate migration, climate refugees, and has to do with democratic conditions, the quality of the economies, the quality of the quality of the people, the resilience capacity of many countries, and is pushed by the changes conditions in the climate and in the ecosystems. No, so this is not like we can be safe just being in the safest space for one of them. We have to be careful of observing also the interlink between the social foundations and the environmental ceiling. This is just a way why we are touching the point of planetary boundaries and sharing a bit with you. I think many of you already know this, the donut economy, is because this can be a helpful framework to understand the capacities we need to push forward in the educational system, and also the skills needed for the next generation to understand and to survive to the many challenges they may have. In the last COP15, there are different COPs and different conventions. Maybe you are aware of the Climate Convention, Climate Change Convention from UN, but there is a different one on biodiversity. No? And the last year in Canada, we had the COP15 for diversity, and they had in some of the hallways a Jenga game. Maybe you play this, or you like it or not. Maybe you play it when you were kids. And this Jenga game was there to show how biodiversity and many other things are again super interlinked. And if we are playing just with the biodiversity and maybe trespassing the boundaries of biodiversity, we maybe are pushing the boundaries around production, economic stability, social stability, democracy, and so on. No? Imagine in the case of pollinators, and what will happen if we somehow pushing the boundaries on the biodiversity, we don't have pollinator species anymore. What will happen with the economy and the production system? A different way of saying the same again, like we are in a time where we need regeneration more than sustainability, is observing the risks. No, this is coming from the World Economic Forum, that in a way is not the most ecological group of people. No, it's like economic center, financial center group of decision makers. But still, what they observe is that for the next 10 years, this is the last report from January, 1 month ago, 1.5 months ago. In the next 10 years, from here, we will see as in the top of the list of the main global risks globally, the failure to mitigate climate change, the failure on climate change adaptation, natural disasters, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem collapse, large-scale involuntary migration is expected to have 1 billion climate migrants by the, 1 billion in English, it's okay. I have the number in Spanish. 1 billion climate migrants by the end of the century, natural resource crisis, and many other things. No, so this topic that we're talking today about climate change, about like green skills, a topic that maybe in some cases, in some countries, is still a niche, is still a bit boutique, a bit small. Certainly, by the end of the decade, we're going to be the main thing on many conversations. So we need to take action, right? And again, the question is, if the planet is in this state today, what are kind of the newest skills we have to teach to the next generation. No. So we were taking a look to what Climate Kick is saying about this, and they mentioned many skills needed for this. Climate Kick is one of the partners also of this project. That's the reason, because we observed this, first of all. Later, if you're an educator, you work on education, you're well aware of the 21st century skills. I think it was a huge wave in the education system, any country, I guess, where they had to integrate somehow the 21st century new skills. No? UNICEF, UNESCO, the UN system is also proposing new skills, no? And critical thinking, system thinking, managing uncertainty, problem solving are somehow in all the assessment, in all the reports about the new skills we are today reading. No? So maybe there is something around resilience and critical thinking and maybe system thinking that can be taken into consideration if we really want to aim for the new wave of education, taking into consideration the new skills needed for this. The planetary boundaries analysis was done primarily created and then researched by many different groups, but Johannes Rockström and the entire team on the Stockholm Resilience Center are the leading scientists that are assessing the conditions of the planet in this kind of planetary boundaries framework. No? And they propose solutions. And one of the solutions they propose is to foster complex adaptive system thinking. No? Sounds complex already. But then if Climate Kick and the entire EU analysis is saying system thinking, problem solving, if the UNESCO and the UN systems is saying the same, so maybe there is a certain level of agreement on what are kind of the new set of skills we should pay attention around this. Then I think we're going to talk about ChatGPT later, I'm not sure. But I asked ChatGPT also for, I have like a entire conversation with ChatGPT, first integrating the concept of planetary boundaries and going deeper on that. And then the question was, what will be the necessary skills if we want to achieve planetary regeneration understood as the healing of the planetary boundaries? And again, system thinking appears there. I asked it later how to teach system thinking for kids then between 4 and 6 years old. I have an niece of 4 years old. That's because that's the reason of my interest. I'm not an educator. And suggest me actually to use concrete examples, encourage observation, use visual aid, so anything. I mean, all this you can do it by yourself, but I'm just showing the capacity again, and linking now with digital skills, no? How the level of consensus we have today on the skills needed first, and how easy then is to start applying them and receiving some sort of help to being actually super specific on how to integrate it in the educational sector. I asked for games because the ChatGPT interface suggested some games to integrate system thinking and resilience for addressing for primary levels in the education of a kid, and then suggest me actually some different games. I didn't know like the most of them. I think just the memory. A book also for addressing system thinking that was very interesting. But in my opinion, now I don't put 2011 on this, but in my opinion, we can have the help of digital tools and now deep skills and the new artificial intelligence wave and everything. But for now, the people that is giving us more accurate information still easy to adapt, super flexible, and also very focused on the participant, on the students, on the kids, are teachers. This is just an example. In one of the young climathons we had in Chile 3 years ago, before the pandemic, teachers were the one giving us specific tools, and actually they were creating games for addressing the same question during the coffee break. So that was the level of integration they had of pedagogy, of methods for the school. So they still, I feel there's a huge gap between like what ChatGPT can tell us and all the technology on what to do, no, because it's everything there. There's nothing, I think everything, there's a great consensus, all the information is there, but still, I think we have to count on teachers if we want really to expand the capacities of the next generation. That's the question we addressed. That's what we found out for now. And that's at the end, just a comment on the boundaries now of the capacities, maybe of the digital world and the digital tools on addressing this question. Thank you. I hope this is interesting, and happy to hear you later, I think, or now, I don't know. In case you have any comments, critiques, concerns, anything you may need to share.
Thank you very much, Waldo. Yeah, very interesting to see also that discussion on how the different platforms or different perspectives kind of come to the same conclusion about what skills are needed to really implement that regenerative system. And also interesting, yeah, of course, what you pointed out at the end, the role of the teachers. Yeah, I think the idea is that if you have any questions for Waldo, we will leave time towards the end after we've had both sessions, so that in that discussion possibly we can link or already make some connections between both of the discussions that were had. So now I would like to introduce our next speaker. I'm already apologizing. I've seen that there's a bunch of quite a lot of people from Italy that will probably not be happy with my pronunciation, but welcome and thank you for joining us today, Davide Ferraresi. Yes, thank you. Yes, our second speaker is a green science expert from Future Education Modena, and will share more of his experience with the application of digital tools, and the synergies between green and digital skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope the presentation can be seen clearly. Okay. So as already said, I am Davide Ferraresi. I work for Future Education Modena. I am a green science expert, and today I'll deal with some aspects of my activity here concerning the synergy of green and digital skills that I believe will be interesting for our discussion. Future Education Modena is an EdTech hub, so we deal with education and technologies here in Modena. We have our place in the center of the city, and we host a number of events related mainly to education, which is our principal field. We aim to develop a competence center and a knowledge system, which are both our way of offering to people in general, to teachers and practitioners in the educational field, in a way, our way of collaborating and providing them new contents and new materials in order to improve their practice. And in Future Education Modena, we work on a number of subjects. I work in particular in the STEM area as a sustainability science expert, as I have already said, but we have a number of experts from all the fields you can see in this slide. And I think the first thing that I try to do in my work, as already mentioned also by Waldo, is the necessity of, in a way, working in a very interdisciplinary way, because even when we think of a number of subjects, not only the environmental issues we are talking about today, we have also to deal with this complexity and the necessity of taking tools from a number of disciplines that are not only the hard sciences in a way, but also the soft sciences and also digital humanities, for example, which are very, in a way, important to communicate and provide correct information to people also in creative way in order to make them more interested in what we say. So I think that this is certainly an approach that we are sharing and we are having common. Here at Future Education Modena, we have this manifesto, which is our, in a way, it contains our values. So we try to stick to these values when developing our projects. And one of the main, actually, the very principal scope of our activity is to enrich education with this rich, balanced, intentional, and effective use of technologies. And so in this way, we try to promote the acquisition of the already mentioned 21st century skills. So I think that in our practice, there are a number of things in common what have been already presented. The main goals on which I work are the three you can see here. Complexity education is the first and I think most important one, because when we deal with the environmental domain, we have to take into consideration a number of interactions between a very huge number of phenomena, I can say. And on the other hand, talking about the tools and the competencies, we have to highlight the interdisciplinarity, as already said, that results as the interconnection of a number of factors that are behind the environmental field, and that are the ecological one, obviously, but also the technical and the socioeconomic ones. As a final goal in my practice, the climate change anxiety is certainly one of the issues we have to tackle. We try to do so by empowering young people, so giving them both competencies and a conscious use of tools in order to understand how they can make the difference, and so how they can contribute to solve the environmental issues such as climate change and all the others. A very, I think, interesting instrument in my practice that have been presented to me only in the last months is this Green Comp, which is a study from the European Commission. I think that it contains a number of competencies that have already been enshrined in other documents, but here they are connected with the sustainability themes. So I think that this is certainly another frame on which we can base our practice. And here I try to make a connection between these green competencies and what has been defined as my enterprise goals back in 2019. I think that there are a number of superposition that are certainly very interesting. Now, to talk about my practice, I will make 2 examples based on the main formats on which we develop our projects. The first one is this, is the format of educational pathways. We have these long educational pathways that are provided both as a formation to teachers or as a project that are delivered directly in the classes. The main characteristics is that we have a number of meetings of lessons in which we treat a number of topics that are logically connected in order to give to students the necessary instruments to challenge, to respond to a challenge we provide them, and so to try to, in a way, simulate the work of practitioners in the environmental field that try to propose solutions. So in these projects, we start from the fundamentals, that are the frame topics that help give us a common language and help students to begin their pathway in these projects. After the fundamentals, we work on the topic of the pathway, which can be a number of different themes from the environmental field. We try to go in depth in order to make students understand in the better way the topic, and then we try to give them also knowledge on the solutions that can be applied in order to tackle that particular issue. After that, we provide a challenge for the students. Generally, they can work on the analysis of data or the design of solutions to tackle the problem we have proposed. And at the end, we try, with the help of experts sometimes, or otherwise only with the classes that have been involved in the project, to discuss together the solutions that have been designed and how they can effectively provide a contribution to solve the environmental issue that has been treated. Here I provided some examples of fundamentals and topics that we try to work on, and I'm happy to have seen that planetary boundaries are a common topic on which we work. And on the methodological side, future thinking and complex system science are two of the elements we try to give to students that are, as already said, a way in which we interpret also the world in which we live. And on the right, you see the topics. There are only some examples, but we work on a number a bit bigger. This is one of our projects. It's called the Urban Green Challenge. It's a particular project because we managed to work on the ecosystem service assessment, which is a field, I believe, which is not so much understood also by common people, not only by students. With this project, we managed to take students outdoor, and they go generally to the schoolyard or to public parks near the school. They make an analysis on the structural characteristics of vegetation, mainly plants and shrubs. And with the data they collect, we managed to obtain an evaluation of ecosystem services that are provided by those plants. And this is made with a very simple open model. In the end, we provide the classes with the data they have collected and the new information about ecosystem services, and then we create a map with all the data that have been collected. This is the challenge part of the pathway, but as I've already said, there is a first part of the process in which we try to give instruments such as the problem definition and system thinking tools. And we try in a very simple way to help students understand environmental issues and try to recognize, for example, the cause-effect relationship in order to understand how different phenomena are connected. And then we work usually on data visualization or data analysis in order to give a quantitative view on the phenomena that should be understood and analyzed. This is one of the final outputs of this project. It's an original output because it was not required from us, but a school in the province of Naples here have decided to use the data that were collected from the green spaces near the school, actually very small green spaces, to design, to project new green spaces in order to ask the local administration to improve to make more green spaces in the town because there weren't so many. Another one of the outputs we hope to reach in the future is an activity of dissemination. We have a number of boards in the public parks here in the territory of Modena, in which there are some classical, I could say, information about the characteristics of the green areas. We will try to work with the local administration to add new information about the ecosystem services, starting from the data that have been collected by the schools. Here are some of the knowledge contents we tried to provide to students. And on the right, you see the competencies that are connected with the ones that have been also enshrined in the European green competencies. We have also another different format, which is the one of workshops. These are the, I could say, smaller activities that lasts generally 2 to 4 hours. And in these activities, we work on only one topic in order to get a good knowledge of the phenomenon we want to analyze, even if we have not so much time. We give students the instruments and the way to use it. And then we propose them activities in order to try to gain a deeper comprehension of the phenomenon. One of the workshops that we have proposed is this digital geography laboratory. It's a very simple workshop because it's based on an interactive map that is provided by the Regional Environment Agency, so it's a public map. Here we have a number of thematism about environmental issues, and we use this map to, we ask students to collect data from this map, and then we ask them to create a new map in which data can be more easily visualized for single location in the territory, and so they can use the information to create a new map that is as well interactive. And as before, we tried here to, in a way, present the knowledge contents of this single laboratory and the competencies we try to promote in students. Thank you for the attention.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's yeah, nice to see that the speakers connected on some areas, and yeah, thank you also for the examples that you brought in of how you work on these skills. Now we have time for a plenary session, or a Q&A session for people that maybe have questions or comments. Our suggestion is that we put those in the chat. That way we can have a look at which questions we think are the most, will have a moderating influence on the questions. Also, that allows us to go through it a little bit more quickly. Yes. However, while we wait for questions to be asked in the chat, I have a question for the both of you. It's potentially a tricky question, but I'm very curious what you think about how digital innovations, such as I think, the AI is really on my mind now, how they change the skills that are required. Or do you think the skills that are that we are working towards are sort of independent of those technological innovations? I'm curious to hear from both of you. Maybe Waldo, you can.
Yeah, just of course in the space of opinions. Yeah, I feel like if we, for instance, talk about system thinking as a core skill or competence around this, I think learning how to think systemically, understand the complexity of the system, making connections around the system, is something that the digital world or artificial intelligence can just improve, I would say. No, can, of course, can be overwhelming, but that's the idea of pushing a bit more the teaching and learning of this competence, is that actually understanding the complexity of the system shouldn't be that overwhelming. No, I think it's overwhelming for us because we were trained. I know our universities had faculties, the school had different subjects. No, was kind of a helpful way for producing, in a way, people for the industry, or not producing people, but workers for the industry in a way. You know, it was really an education system based for that. But now that everything is changing, I think complexity, can be easily integrated since younger age, I think also. And then the digital tools just can improve in a way the development of the competence, I would feel.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, from my point of view, when we think of AI, I had a discussion with colleagues the last days about ChatGPT, for example. We saw that there are also, I don't know, linguistic competencies that has to be further developed, I think, because when we have these AI that are capable of writing text, but in a way they are sort of composing other texts or putting together information from different sources, sometimes it's not so obvious to find out how the information has been retrieved and how it's been assembled. So sometimes when you read the ChatGPT, it seems that it's a bit redundant. It's tried to not answer clearly some questions. So I believe that we have to make, in a way, experience on that particular way of writing, okay? And so try to understand the process that is behind the text, and so also try to avoid some errors that I think AI is at the current state inevitably still has.
Yeah, thanks. I see some, I think, more practical questions for David. What is the age of the students that you work with?
So in my experience, I worked with students from 11 to 17, 18 years old. But we are trying to develop new educational pathways that could be offered also to younger students. And this is not easy, but I'm not a practitioner in that field, but I have colleagues that are helping me. So I'm quite confident in the next month we will manage to create these new pathways. And I can also answer to the next question, which is
thank you.
About the role of teachers. And generally in my educational pathways, teachers are always trained by me and my colleagues, and then they make activities and lessons in class with the students. So we had to do a training pathway for them, and generally we managed to give a good comprehension also of the tools, which I think can be one of the most difficult things to do. But in general, they managed to get the most important information and to reproduce the activity with the students.
Great. The next question, I think, is also for you.
Yeah.
Whether you've measured or noticed the impact on students' environmental behavior.
Okay, so not so far, because we have not
yet developed a tool to measure this impact. We generally concentrate more on the competencies and on the knowledge they acquire. But I think that it will be very interesting to analyze also the behavior, the approach towards sustainability issues. So maybe the future will manage to develop such a tool.
I don't see any other questions for now. Leave another moment.
Can I jump in, Martin?
Please.
This is Gianluca. I had another question in mind. Maybe it was kind of complementing my first one to Davide, and it's about. I'm referring to what you showed in one slide, and you were about assessment, and you said that you assessed the your activity also with other leagues, if I understood well. Do you mean that you involve your colleagues, maybe not only science experts, but I don't know, linguistics or philosophy or psychologists? What kind of other colleagues do you work with that might help?
Well, by now, only science experts like me.
Okay.
But in the future, we will develop some challenges that will certainly, in a way, involve also other disciplines, such as linguistics, for example. I've received a number of requests from my colleagues, so we will work on that. And yeah, in the future, probably we will work also on linguistic challenges based on media information, contents about climate change and other topics. So we will probably work also on a sort of assessment on those challenges. And also on ChatGPT, we had already tried tried how the instruments can be used. So yeah, we will develop something also on that side.
Thank you. I don't know if Walter, you have any comments on this. My idea is that it's pretty challenging, but it's also fascinating to build an interdisciplinary team with the within the teachers when you build up a project with a school. You know, this step is pretty challenging, and it also gives the quality to the result. So on one side, you have the school activating teachers from different disciplines and responding to the challenge. And on the other side, it might be also interesting to have an interdisciplinary team of expertise from outside the school cooperating. So what's your point of view on this?
No, again, like an opinion, I think soon we're going to have like systemic schools. I think there are many initiatives around the public health sector on systemic therapy and also a systemic understanding of the health sector. Here in the district I live in, Berlin, there is the first systemic praxis where they have like a therapies. They have also a specialist for different health issues. So this idea is also, I think, gonna slowly impact also a broader system, not just the schools or the health sector, but also companies, organizations. You know, and of course there we have to just to pay attention many things, of course, but to how just and the level of focus our programs have on kind of vulnerable communities, because of course, maybe we have seen many new approaches on education, but the thing is, those approaches are typically for the same group of not super privileged, but people with access, information and other things. So I think many new things going to happen there, I feel, in the education sector and at the school level, but also in the teacher level, as the one you mentioned. I think that's a very good idea. The only thing, I'm not sure all those efforts going to arrive for the people that are more in need, of these new developments, of course.
Thank you. So, Martin, what do you think? It's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're on time.
Yeah.
We're respecting our schedule, the schedule we planned, and it's the right time to invite our participants to jump into breakouts and.
Yeah, so
and,
for this participative to jump into the collaborative sessions, we want to have 3 breakout rooms in this Zoom. The first one is on co-creating climate action activities in the school. The second one is about the future of education with OpenAI and ChatGPT. And the third one is about bringing system thinking in the class. Don't worry, we know you can only attend one, but afterwards we will bring in combine the most interesting findings in a plenary session again. So just pick the one that you're most interested in at this point, and then we'll see you there.
Maybe Martin, you can share the screen with the 3 rooms.
Yeah.
So people
Yeah.
can.
Yes, I can do that. Oh. Oh.
So each of you should be able to select through the breakout from the menu below the breakout room that he or she prefers. The breakout rooms would last for 35 minutes, then we will meet back in plenary and and then kind of wrap up. And we will also help, we will also try to, let's say, help the conversation, guide the conversation with a Miro board. So
yeah,
I can share in the chat the Miro link, but you will also find it once in the breakouts.
Yeah.
So I see that people are already moving to the different breakout rooms. So we'll wait for everyone to be there.
Yeah, I will stop sharing my screen and also join the breakout room.
Thank you. Kat, you will be here in the plenary to make sure that everyone is able to jump into.
No, absolutely. You and Malo can go, Martin.
Okay, thank you.
If anybody needs help in terms of joining the breakout rooms, just let me know and I can talk you through it.
Is this everyone? Let me see. Everyone is back? I think so, right? Yeah, we had a nice discussion. We were with 3 people, so it was yeah, an intimate discussion about ChatGPT, privacy, and the impact on education. I'm very curious to hear from the other groups as well. I think it would be most logical to start with group 1. I hope you appointed someone to summarize, or someone will spontaneously share. Malu, can you take the lead in this part?
Sure, Martin. And does anyone from my team wants to share which were the results of the session? And if someone wants to do it, okay, great. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Teresa and Selena.
Yeah, I'm always in charge of doing that because it's come si dice oh well, sorry for that. Okay, so we had a very fruitful discussion, and we were I was very happy because within my breakout room there were a colleague of mine which is working at the same project that I am. So we had the chance to, you know, it was nice because we came up with pretty much with the same, you know, thoughts and challenges. And it's nice that we are like focusing our activities on schools. So my name is Teresa Carlone. I am a researcher at the University of Bologna, and I'm here and I participated to this breakout room because I am working at the iChange project, which aims to increase awareness on climate risk and to promote behavioral change towards a more sustainable lifestyle. So one of the stakeholder and group of people that we would like to include in our project are schools. So the idea to, it was extremely interesting discussing about the topic. So we came up with some challenges that we are usually facing or we might face in dealing with schools and to promote climate-related or climate-related action in schools. We came up with 2 main big challenges. The first one is related to the structure and the pressure that schools have on curriculum and like scholar activities, and with the lack, as we said, of interdisciplinary approach at school, and the missing continuity between different school level. And once you have involved a specific group of students or teachers or family, it's very hard to give continuity, to keep on engaging them, to structure a more constant and more structured path or activities on that allowed people to learning about environment. From the other side, there is also, and when we talk about environment, and we saw in the previous presentation, there is a huge importance of data and data collection, data analysis. So it's extremely important to have, for both from the people, the group of people that come from outside the school, but also inside the schools, meaning teachers, family, and students, the data literacy and all the difficulties related to the GDPR policy, especially if you work with minors, if you work with, if you're on like, you know, behavior, activity, if you're tracking their movement, let's say, in the city. So we saw this kind of difficulties, one related to the competencies and the other related to the structural, the structure of the schools. I'm sorry if I'm reading, but we came up with some possible solution that are that try to, let's say, intervene in this discontinuity in schools and in activities, meaning we propose university curriculum that are interdisciplinary. So there's the knowledge for those who come to school and propose learning environment activities that will have like facilitation skills, that will have data skills, and they will have, you know, ability and capability to communicate scientific results or scientific data. It's extremely important to work on the stakeholder management in this climate project, meaning include principals, teachers, students, and involve them into the design of this project. Not just someone providing the learning process, but involve the stakeholder and engage in the management of all these stakeholder in designing the process itself. And it's extremely important also to include schools in EU project and have more fundings, and meaning more people, more knowledge, more like dissemination power on interdisciplinary approach. And one thing that we strongly suggested is that like the learning about environment and action related to environment should be a subject at school, not just a like spot project. And they will like at some point make up for all the challenges that we could face or we faced in involving school in learning process on environment and climate change. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Today is gone, so I'm here to listen. Don't ask me more, please.
No, but thank you very much. I think you resumed perfectly what we talked, and I think that, you know, like also the rest of the people feel free to include and add any other comments you might have as possible solutions or challenge you might face. So yeah, now I pass you the mic, Martin.
Yeah, Grace, I'm gonna put you, after this discussion, I think I sort of have to put you on the spot here as well. I heard, yeah, it seems like in the other breakout rooms, when they thought of solutions, they proposed that someone should design a module about privacy concerns. Could you maybe share a little bit about what you are working on?
Yeah, I arrived late to the session. I'm really sorry. Someone sent it to me and they thought I'd be interested in it. I work in Dublin. I work on an education program around smart cities for young people. So I mostly work with 16-year-olds. And so, yeah, part of my work, the UN Habitat have a project where there's a digital rights framework, and they picked 4 cities to pilot it. Of like how would it work in a city. Dublin was one of those cities, so I have to create a module on digital rights and privacy for young people. So like how will we educate young people on digital rights, particularly in a smart city, like with all the tech and sensors that are around the place, but it obviously encompasses things like ChatGPT. So yeah, I think for my purpose, I'd like to focus on an in-person module, like to have students in front of me and really talk through the session. I like it to be more of a debate, because I think with these things, there's no right answer. So, or like, you know, it's good to explore with students and get their take on it. So yeah, over the next few months, I'm trying to create a module to get young people to debate digital rights and privacy. So some things we chatted about in our breakout room. It was really helpful to bounce it off everyone. So we talked about ChatGPT and privacy, and like, you know, all the issues there around sourcing. So like ChatGPT mightn't say who the author is, the transparency of data sets. And then we talked about like digital rights, like there's digital rights, but there's also the digital responsibilities. So like, how do you pair those two together? And then Martin made a very good point of like, do young people care though? So like, how do you make sure that like what's important to them in the context of digital rights and privacy and technology? Like how do you make sure it's interesting and relevant to them?
Thank you very much. Yeah, Floor, I think, yeah, that was the 5 minutes for our room. I think I don't want to take away time from the other breakout room. Gianluca, what was discussed there?
Yeah, of course I can share what came out, but my fault. I didn't invite participants in our breakout. We didn't identify someone who would share. So we had Davide, Barbara, Chiara. Davide, Barbara, Chiara, do you want to jump in and share, maybe going through the post-its? I can't see you, in fact.
As you like. Davide, you help me, Chiara.
Would you be willing to say something, and then I can jump in, of course, and help?
Yeah, no, it was interesting because we have this, well, Gianluca made a presentation to introduce system thinking and some examples of tools, and then we had just an exchange of ideas and tools that we are using or that we think we might use, or experiences that are, mainly we said empiric experiences. So we spoke about Lego Series Play as a tool that we are using, for instance, that is very linked and useful to have a systemic approach, and either for teachers and students, this is very important, or simulators. And so Davide suggested a tool, NetLogo, and also gamification, so games that can be created by students themselves or by teachers through system thinking approach, and also to develop a systemic approach as well. So this is what we shared. And then strengths and weaknesses. Now I'm following the Miro board because we talked a lot, and so the challenge is, let's say, how to involve students in developing tools and games. This can be a challenge. System mapping, of course, needs time, so it takes time, and it's a process that takes time. Naturally, it is interdisciplinary, so it connects all subjects, topics, and which is the teacher's role. The teacher becomes a facilitator, is no more a teacher, frontline teacher, but it becomes a facilitator. And of course, the time issue is also that system mapping can be time consuming, as we said, so it takes time to work on it. So these are the things that we put on the plate. I don't know, Davide, Gianluca, Chiara, help me.
Thank you, Barbara. I think you said everything. Davide, is anything, did we forget something?
No. I think everything has been touched.
Great, thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, also a reminder for everyone, if in these summaries of the breakout rooms you heard something that sparked your curiosity, or you feel like you have some thoughts to contribute to another topic, the Miro board will be open also after this webinar. So feel free to use it as a resource and take your inspiration from it. We're nearing the conclusion of this webinar, and I would like to, during this project, this TEDdy project, we, like I said at the beginning, we got resources to develop materials, to implement them and evaluate them. And I think one of the main takeaways, one of the main things that we can give to the people that took time out of their day to be here and are possibly curious about the overlap between digital and green skills in the classroom. We have developed a toolkit. Malu, perhaps you can just quickly introduce it to the people who are still here so that they have an idea of what to expect.
Sure. Thank you, Martin. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just so you know, here on the right side of the Miro board, you can find results and resources. We will post here some of the things we talked about in the session of today. And you can also find here the TEDdy toolkit, which can be also directly downloaded from the Miro board. just so you know, after this session this week, we will send an email, a follow-up email of this conference with the resources we share, the presentation, the toolkit and everything. But meanwhile, you can download it here. Yeah, this toolkit, it's basically a co-creation, but also a compilation of good practices around green and digital skills in the classroom, at school, or different learning spaces. It's not, I mean, we also just, you know, like ask different teachers, schools, program creators, what methodologies and which tools have worked for them, and we have compiled them here. So it's not just a creation of this consortium, which part of it is, but it's also a compilation. So I just won't go through the whole thing because we just have 9 minutes left to finish, but you know, like at least I want to tell you a bit what can we find on it. Basically, we talk a bit about, you know, like why apply sustainability-based learning, what's all about that. But the main journey of this toolkit, it's the learning journey around green skills. And we propose here 4 steps so that you can really implement in schools, with teachers, with students, in order for them to understand better the climate-related challenges they have around and how can they contribute and mitigate them through a collective or through a community work process. So just so you know what you can find here, we propose different activities. For example, challenge definition. We propose an activity. We give examples of how do you feel in this activity and how do you process with it. But we also provide templates, so you can just download them or print them and use them within your classrooms. You can, of course, this is open source. You can use these materials and implement it within your programs, in your courses, and with your studies. So feel free to use them as much as possible. Another interesting resource is that you will also find a lot of QRs. You know that you can scan the QRs through your phone, but also apart from that, once you download the PDF, if you click on the QR, you will also go directly to the link we are proposing. Here, for example, we've developed different, you can find examples of challenges, definitions. So you can already even use these challenges to work with your students and your classrooms. For example, we've talked a lot about systemic thinking this session. You can find different activities like the actors map or the stakeholders analysis. You have some instructions, and then you can also find the templates, as I said. These are some of the things you can find here, and then I will go to the end of the toolkit. You have here a lot of templates, but I just want to go until the end. For example, this is quite an innovative tool, and it's the community canvas, which consists on how students, youth group, but also adults community can set up a community project. How do they set up the values of the community? Which are going to be the communication channels? Which are going to be the onboarding processes? Which are going to be the key actions? So this is quite a helpful template for collectives to settle or narrow down or break down the steps they need to develop in order to develop a community project. And at the end of the toolkit, you will also find, as I was saying, digital tools and platforms for climate action. These are developed by WWF, these are developed by UN, these are developed also by organizations working on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. You can find a lot of games, a lot of platforms, and yeah, different resources. This, for example, it's also super interesting, education for sustainable development. A lot of them, I would say 80% are focused on education. So most of them can be used by teachers and educators. Then you will also find some guidelines for digital tools and platforms that you can use in order to interact more actively with students. Yeah, and then you also have some small or tips around digital safeguarding. So yeah, this is just an invitation to check it. We are also happy to receive any feedback if you have any improvements to propose for us. And of course, if you have any other thing you think this is useful to include, let us know. And if it's not a lot of modification, that's something we can keep on improving. So I just want to stop sharing my screen now. And of course, if you have questions regarding the toolkit, you can put them on the chat. And if not, since we have just 5 minutes left, Martin, if that's okay, I will move forward the checkout.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Super. So I'm leaving here one on the chat of the Zoom now. You can find a link. And we will do 2 different checkout activities. It's going to be super fast. This first one, it's about, we would like to know which are your takeaways from this session. So there you go to the link, you can just write out some takeaways and I will share my screen to see which are the results. There is a big support network out there in digital education. There have been good exchanges, inspirations, useful tools from the TEDI project, the toolkit, the network, the solution for challenges, a lot of practical inputs on how to use, what do you mean with that? Sustainable?
System thinking.
Perfect, system thinking, yeah. Nowadays, it's like so many similar words. I don't know if it's sustainable technology or whatever. But yeah, and also I want to invite, like we propose these methodologies in order to co-create solutions. We just had few time to work on it, but please just keep in mind this structure or this, like methodology so that we keep on thinking on solutions after the session also. I have many people who are located near me doing interesting things. That's great. Very grateful for all the people that took the time. Yeah. Thanks a lot for everyone for participating here. You can keep on leaving there some takeaways. And meanwhile, I will just share with you the second link. Right. So this second link to close, and this is the final closing. We would like, the idea of these sessions and these conferences is that we inspire each other, but that we really think on concrete steps to make. So this second question is about what would be the next thing you would do after this session based on the learnings from today. And that's the idea, that after the sessions, we get inspired and tomorrow we talk to the people and we try to promote new projects or improve the projects we have. So also take your time to think on it. I know this is maybe not such an easy thing to think about, but we would really like to learn from which are the steps that all of you are available to make. So I will share my screen now. Great. There's some answers already. Let's see. Wow, great. So I want to be sent the toolkit and start to incorporate it into my practice. That's great. Just so you know, there's in Miro, you can already download it, but also we will send it through email this week. Integrating ecosystem services assessment into our education program. That's inspired by David. Thank you, David, for that. Then also there's someone that will promote some of the tools with all the projects he's running. Great. Then concretely meet again for exchanging projects and ideas to create synergies between ongoing projects and also for building new operations together. This is great. Also take into account, I saw that many of us are working under the umbrella of Erasmus Plus fundings. So this is also great to map our organizations and know, and map ourselves and think which projects could we develop together, because actually we are based in different countries. So the consortiums usually always require minimum 2-3 countries. So just, and also if there's anyone that wants to connect with another organization, you can write privately in the chat. You can also ask us for contacts and we can ask for permission. We can do that bridge. And then there's another person that wants to understand how to better include system thinking in the projects. And for sure, try the tools myself and share them with teachers and educators. That's great. Thank you very much from my side. Now I pass the floor to Martin.
Yeah, just one final minute of a couple thank yous. I have to give a shout out or a token of appreciation to Erasmus Plus for making it possible for us to have worked on this project, and also making it possible for us to work together like this. I want to be very thankful to the speakers who took their time to share their expertise and experience and inspired us. And yeah, maybe most of all to all the participants, especially the ones that are still here with us at this point. Yeah, I think it's really important. We're all very busy working on a very important subject. And it's hard to take the time out of what we're working on to build those bridges between us. But I think that even small sessions like this can be very fruitful. And yeah, I would really encourage everyone to continue like we did today, to take that time out of our busy lives to see these opportunities. That would be it for me. Thank you all. And I wish you a very lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you're at.